doesn't end well unless it ends. You can't just report the fucking obvious. Just a motherfucking jump. Just go. And here we go. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy and the other fucking guy who controls it all, makes it all happen. Producer of the podcast, we have Leo. Good morning, Leo.
Good morning, brother. How you doing today on this?
Man, how many more Mondays do we got?
One, actually.
Just one?
I believe
one
just one. Could be wrong, but
we're getting down to the wire, man.
Yeah, this year is ending.
That would make sense with the one more.
Where'd it go?
I'm just saying,
it should just be one more, yeah.
One more Monday, and that is it.
Last Monday of the year, man.
I feel like every year I say, this is the fastest year ever.
Every single year. It just speeds up every single year.
Wait till you get old, brother.
Yeah, that
Wait till you get old. And I didn't share this last week, and because honestly, I didn't want to think about it too much, or it would really be fucking with my head. But I had two people one was a friend that I met when I got here, and 3.5 years ago. So I would say he was a friend for about the last 3 years, and I spoke to him at least on a weekly basis, if not more, but we would talk. Family, sports, his kids. He was a great dad, loved his kids, loved his wife, had a good job supervising, crew. I mean, he was up in the food chain a little bit, And if he wasn't at work, which he was at work a lot, he was coaching his kid in baseball, and that was really important. And he went in for a routine surgery, and during that routine surgery, he passed away because of an aneurysm. So, really, really, totally unexpected, super unexpected. And we were close in age. He was a little younger than me, but we were still fairly close in age. And he was in good shape. He worked out, he trained. And I found out about that through someone that he had introduced me to, Travis. Travis is another good guy. And he said, "Hey, what'd you think?" And man, I didn't know. And then about an hour after I was told that, I was just getting in the house, and I went to scroll on Facebook, and there's a picture of my little sister, I referred to her as Andrea, from back in Ohio, putting a picture up of her and another guy that I knew pretty well, but not one that it's somebody I haven't been close to since I've been out here in Arizona. Back in Ohio, we would talk on a semi-regular basis and sometimes work out together, but different training things. He had been in the military, and he had some PTSD and some depression issues, and I found out he hung himself.
Oh, wow.
And I found out both of those things within an hour of each other.
Wow.
And I'm just telling, man, that shit's, people, wonder why I do what I do. And, this weekend is a good example. Dawn and I were nonstop this weekend between, taking care of clients, going to the gym, going out to eat. We went out both Friday and Saturday night, went to Scottsdale, watched a shit ton of football. In fact, we watched so much football that it became overwhelming. Right now, my I can't remember. For during the weekend, I could remember, but now I'm at that point where I can't remember what kicker missed what and what game because it was so much football and the kicking was so fucking bad this weekend, dude. Oh my God. The kickers have never been more at the front of the football story than they were this past weekend. And that was true at both the college and the pro level. But we watched a shit ton of football. And then, of course, went to the last Cardinals game. And I said to several people that worked there as we were going in, and we went really nice and early, got table in the area we like to be. It was really nice. And said, yeah, Merry Christmas. How about, isn't this nice? This is the last time the Cardinals get to disappoint us at home this year. And I was right. I was right. Because they really didn't play that well during the game, but actually in the final few minutes, they potentially had a chance.
It was fairly close, 26-19.
Yeah, they had a chance to come down and tie it up. They had one last drive that they were given, and, they did what the Cardinals do. Turnover. And I got to say this. I know that Cardinal fans are tired of Kyler Murray. They got tired of him. They didn't want to see him come back. But
I like Murray. I don't know why.
They just
I understand it, but I like Murray.
Jacoby, he needs to get a fresh start. He really does. So, and Jacoby Brissett filled in, and I will say this: he's a good backup quarterback, and maybe one of the better backup quarterbacks in the league. But that's all he is. He is only a backup quarterback. And I don't mean to be starting with this stuff first, but we might as well keep the flow going. So Malik Willis, who came to Green Bay by way of the Tennessee Titans, who got off to, a rough start in his early career, had an opportunity to take the Green Bay Packers to victory, and he did a great job. A great job. It wasn't on him. That wasn't the reason they lost. It was drop passes. It was other things that were going on in the game. He played as good as you could expect somebody to play. In fact, if Jordan Love hadn't gotten hurt, if Love had the same numbers, you would be nothing but positive about it. So if the backup does it, he is too. And the difference is, in this case, unlike Jacoby Brissett, even though this was just a one-game glimpse, really, a half glimpse of one half, I would say that he did himself a good service in that other teams that need quarterbacks, that he could go somewhere next year and maybe get another start.
Okay.
It's kind of like, I would put it in the category, he didn't have the success early on as some others have had, like Baker Mayfield, who did have a little bit of success. He did take the Browns to a playoff game prior to, his last season with Cleveland, where he played hurt. He didn't have anything like that. But then Baker went to Carolina, and nothing really happened there. He was lucky enough to hook up with the Los Angeles Rams, and he came in relief at the Rams and showed up and showed off, and then that's how he got the job in Tampa Bay then. So, sometimes guys need a reset, and Malik Willis might be one of those guys. This expectation of all these young guys to just come out and just kill it. You look at last year, Caleb Williams struggled last year, and you really wondered, was this a good idea? And now you look at what the Bears have done this year and what he personally has done this year, and he looks like he has matured so much in just that one season. Will this be in his second season? Has moved up a whole nother level. He is a legit quarterback and a legit franchise quarterback. But based on last year, at the end of the year, you weren't sure. You weren't sure, which takes me to Shador Sanders, who once again plays well. He did have an interception earlier in the game, but it's one of those interceptions where most fans don't put it on the quarterback.
Yeah, true.
That it was just mishandled by the receiver and the ball ended up in the hands of a defender. Now, sometimes when a receiver touches it, just because of where they place the ball, it can still be on the quarterback, and the quarterback takes the heat for it no matter what. In the stat line, it's the quarterback's problem, right? But we all know watching the game that that's different. And Shador Sanders, was solid. I think, once again, Dylan Gabriel had to come in for a moment. Shador Sanders fucked up his little finger. It's like blood. I think it was his pinky finger. Yeah. And it was on his throwing hand. So, but Dylan Gabriel came in. He didn't do anything.
Got one sack.
Yeah. I just think, what I saw is, again, if Shador Sanders came out and played like Caleb Williams played last year, his career would be finished. The standard, the bar that's set for Shador Sanders is so much higher than what everybody else is. That just makes no sense to me. These quarterbacks need time to develop. And that's been the case with like a Jordan Love. Even Aaron Rodgers didn't come into the league and take over. It wasn't until his third year. I think that was the same was true for Jordan Love taking over for Rodgers in the third year. They both sat and watched. Green Bay seems to have a pretty good system about how to develop quarterbacks and bringing them in, letting them sit behind a really, really good veteran. And in this case, Favre, Hall of Fame. Aaron Rodgers will be Hall of Fame. And to be able to have those kind of quarterbacks in a row is phenomenal. I mean, you don't get that. Now, potentially, a third. I mean, Jordan Love, we don't know at this point whether or not he'll turn out to be a Hall of Famer, but he is a true top quarterback, franchise quarterback. He is a true franchise quarterback at this point. So you just go from there, and then time and success will determine the rest. So might as well continue with the craziest football. It's the craziest football I've ever seen. Starting off with, on Friday night, Alabama kicking ass, did really good. Well, and I shouldn't say kicking ass because Oklahoma played well. Oklahoma was up on them by 17 early, and then it was all Alabama after the first quarter and just rolled up on them big. I think there was at one point 27 unanswered points. So that's pretty good. And again, it was really good comeback, but Oklahoma was still tough during the game, but Alabama just, for whatever reason, seemed off in the first quarter. Ty Simpson seemed a little off, but the dude was steady and cool and just came back solid. Just threw some dimes and turned out to be a great game and probably the best game of the weekend, the most enjoyable game to watch anyways. And then the other three playoff games were on Saturday. And you had a snooze fest to start off with, and that was Miami. And I had taken Texas A&M. But, I mean, nobody would have thought in a million years, nobody was taking the under in this game, or certainly expecting more than 13 points by these two teams. But that's what happened. And totally, it was boring. The quarterback play by Texas A&M was horrible. Their kicker was fucking terrible. And I just don't know. I say it all the time. How do these college teams, when you have a bad kicker, not go to the soccer team and take one of their players who can play both sports then and Find a soccer player and turn him into a kicker, all right? There's got to be somebody, you would think. And I've known that, like, even in high school. One of the little kids that I coached in soccer, and he went on to play football for the high school team, was a great athlete. But he was, besides being a great athlete, he was also a good kicker. And I believe he kicked like a 50 or 53 yarder in high school. You don't see that in high school often. You know what I mean?
Not very common, no.
No, not common at all. But still, like, it was terrible. And the punting, we saw some of the weirdest, dumbest punts in our entire life. There was one where the dude basically kicked it into the dude's stomach, almost on purpose. You're like, what is he doing with the ball? It made no sense at all. In fact, it was so bad, it looked like it was, if you want to be a conspiracy theorist, like maybe he had money on the game. It was bad. Just terrible punting. And I think look up who was the Lou Groza Award winner for this year. Lou Groza was a great kicker. Who was the Lou Groza Award winner for 2025? Yeah, it was Oklahoma's. Dude had made like 22 kicks this year. He missed 2 in that game. And one that wasn't very far. But in some of the games, there was a lot of wind. I will give you that. There was a lot of wind, but you had somebody who's supposed to be the best college kicker this year totally blow it. Just totally blow it in what were makeable ones. Even the Pittsburgh Steelers. We have really, I think we have one of the 3 best kickers in all the NFL, and I would take him over anybody. Made a 59-yard field goal early and then missed a 36-yard chip shot. And the thing is, if it was reversed, we wouldn't feel bad at all. If he had missed the 59-yarder, you'd be like, it was 59 yards. Yeah. But the one you expect him to make, they miss 36. That's why I mean the kicking all across the NFL and college played such a huge role this weekend and was just crazy. Yeah, I think even the Chicago game, because you had the poles moving even, not just the little flags at the top.
Because of the wind.
And then, yeah, the wind was so bad. And then what game was it? There was one game, maybe it was Oklahoma and Alabama. There was one where the ball was high and it didn't go between the goalposts, but it doesn't have to, like directly through. It can be higher than the goalpost, but it still has to, like if you would.
Can it really?
No, if you have to extend it up. Do you understand what I mean?
I get what you're saying, but it doesn't have to be anywhere near the goalpost.
Well,
as long as it's within
as long as it's within here. If it's above it here, but it's between the goalposts, it's good.
So it doesn't matter how high you punt it or kick it.
No.
Then it just lets.
So that's the thing, but it went, and so then you're using human judgment, right? Because you're fake extending the pole up, and it looks like it goes right across it, and you could believe it either way. But you almost feel like if the pole did go higher, that the goalpost went higher, that it would have hit the goalpost. Like and then sometimes it actually still goes in, and sometimes it doesn't. You don't know. But they said it was no good. I thought that was the one that it was in that game that happened. But that's what I mean. Just the craziest stuff when it comes to that. And then we continue on. The last 2 games of Saturday were the 2 worst games of the playoff, and there'll be no more worse. Even if somebody else gets blown out, which is entirely possible, these were not competitive games or even close. It was really reminded, anybody who knows anything about football would remind you of your varsity team taking on the JV team, is what it looked like. And both Tulane and JMU didn't look good. Tulane looked really bad, honestly. Um, I would say that JMU looked a little bit better in the second half, but they weren't playing against the first stringers in the second half like they were the first half. Players were getting substituted because when you're blowing another team out, what chance do you want to take to get one of your star players hurt? So they were able to put up some points and make it look a little bit better, but it really wasn't good. In fact, we turned it off and went to there was also a, on Saturday, NFL game. The Eagles played. So we watched the Eagles game.
That's weird. Why did that happen?
Well,
Just
once
the way the
the
schedule lines
college
up.
season is over, the NFL likes to take advantage of Saturdays too.
Oh, because
So
there's
you
not
can
as
have-
many games.
So you can have more games in prime time.
Gotcha.
Now there'll be bowl games, but these bowl games and
No
people
one cares
talking
about.
about these bowl games and the choice of Notre Dame choosing not to play is just ridiculous. If Notre Dame had played in the bowl game, they'd be doing it without their star running back and star wide receiver, who are both going to go in the first 2 rounds. I don't know where the wide receiver will go, but he'll go high, maybe even the first round, just not maybe early in the first round. And running backs, it's hard to go, really super early, but Jeremiah Love is one of those special ones, and the NFL is getting back to running and pounding the ball a little bit more. So somebody's going to take him really, really early. You just have, and then they open the portal. So some guys are opting to go into the portal, even though their team has a bowl game yet, which means they don't get to play in the bowl game because they're leaving the team. So just everything messes up everything else the way they have it now, which makes these games absolutely useless, meaningless. It's not a true representation of the team when you're missing those players. And it used to be important to make another statement years ago in these bowl games, and it would be good for recruiting and stuff too. That's not the case anymore. That's just not the case. It used to be you played in, one of the bowls, the Sugar Bowl, for example, and it might be the number 4 and the number 7 team, and that game would make a difference in the final rankings. None of that shit matters anymore, man. It really doesn't. To let these bowl games determine any ranking after this at this point, an end of the season ranking, is just dumb. The rankings were what the rankings were at the end of the regular season after the championship games and done. It's just done at that point because now it doesn't matter whether they come out with something or not. It's just stupid. It's bullshit. And why would somebody want to get players hurt? Makes no sense. So they're just a waste. We're going to go watch one of these wasted games on the day after Christmas because it gives us something to do. And we thought it was cool that the game was at the baseball field. So actually in the Rate Bowl is Minnesota and New Mexico. Super exciting. That is super exciting. Minnesota. Woohoo. It's the first time Minnesota's name's been said in relationship to football all year. Really. It's not like they were really good at some point and said, boy, you need to watch out for this Minnesota team in the Big Ten. Nobody said that. In New Mexico? Come on. Not New Mexico, not New Mexico State. I mean,
I have no idea about any of the teams. So
well, you wouldn't from these either.
yeah.
You just wouldn't. Cardinals, gave us that last little hope at the end. Like I said, we were watching the Steeler game at the same time, and they both started at the same time. And so sometimes, one of the times, there was I don't know if there was interception. Oh, it was when the Steelers sacked him in the end zone for a safety, getting 2 points, and we're like, woo! And the people in front of us turn around and they're like, what game are you
cheering?
watching?
Yeah,
I'm like, we're Steeler fans, man. It's so funny. And I forget he said he was a fan of some other team too. So they were just,
just there to be
the
there.
Cardinals are the side chick for maybe the most amount of fans anywhere. Honestly.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that.
Yeah, that's probably fair to say. They're the other woman. And the other woman isn't, in this case, better. The grass is definitely not greener in this case. In my other case, my side team is Alabama, so that works out pretty good for me. She's a pretty good side team. But yeah, it didn't. And Pittsburgh, that I knew that would be a tough game. And I was hoping they would get a chance to win the game, that was going to be their best path to be able to win the North Division, and especially with the Ravens losing last night, that really, really helps Pittsburgh. Crazy plays at the end. I can't even describe them, and I don't have the plays to show you. If you're interested, pull it up. End of the game between Detroit and Pittsburgh, some crazy calls. But it came down to the very final seconds and, a final play that was in question for a minute or two. But to get that win against a good team, and I still believe that the Lions are a good team, even though now they're not likely to make the playoffs. Their playoff percentages are definitely in the toilet. But they had a winning record. They've been a solid team. They've put points on the board. They've lost some heartbreaking games. And, I root for Detroit whenever they're not playing Pittsburgh. I'm always up for a Detroit win, and am glad to see that the franchise over the last few years has turned a corner, and there's a new culture in Detroit. It's a new day, a new era. Finally, what fans have been hoping for. And these Lions fans have expectations now. They have expectations, and they should. They should. And that's a good thing. And it'll be good for them, next year. And I don't think they're going to fall out of it completely, like we've seen Kansas City do. But, Kansas City hung in there too in their game. Without Patrick Mahomes, you can only expect so much. He's that important to them, right? For sure. Oh, one last thing. Let's do the Lions thing. So in that game, there was this thing that happened. I think lower than this, if you go to it, it might show a video of it happening. And we couldn't hear. We were watching it on my phone. But, yeah, go ahead and play that. So you can find it on X. That DK Metcalf getting into it with the fan. But apparently nothing's going to happen out of it.
DK Metcalf had mixing up with someone in the stands.
Oh, my gosh.
And that not going to have great consequences for the Steelers and Metcalf. He just got to block out the noise.
Wow. And you saw the Lions fan actually.
I know, crazy, right?
DK Metcalf.
He actually, that's kind of taking a swing at him. His fist was closed.
That's definitely a swing.
Great consequences for the Steelers.
He didn't connect.
He just got.
About to say he missed,
I think what the NFL
swung.
said after is because it was not on the playing field, they can't do anything. I don't know. I've never heard that before. The NFL does whatever the fuck they want in finding players. Mm-hmm. And apparently, the only information so far out is that the fan said that he said his whole name to him.
Like his government name?
Yeah.
Oh. I mean, it's a stupid reason to throw a
Yeah,
punch
like,
as
who
a professional football player, but whatever.
Yeah, but like, who cares, right? You know what I mean? Like, why would that bother you? Somebody saying your full name.
Uh, if I had to guess, it's more of like a gangster thing where you don't necessarily want people knowing your full legal government name, but he's a professional football player, so that'd be kind of hard to hide.
Yeah, but it's not something you should want to get fined over or get. I don't know. It just seems dumb, but he played well. I've been happy with him this season. He's done what he can, and
He
You
doesn't.
know,
He
we
doesn't
leaders.
like his government name. He said I called him that, and then he grabbed me and then ripped my shirt. Yeah, so he just doesn't like his full government name, I guess.
yeah, I don't understand that.
I don't understand that either.
I mean, I can understand if you don't like it, you don't like it. But if somebody calls you that, you're gonna like get that upset or take a swing at them. I mean, I don't know. It would have to be something else for me to do it, anyways.
Mhm.
But I guess nothing's gonna happen. We'll see if anything else does. But that was the latest. So that gets us through the football. Let's go to the Bondi Beach story. This and the reason I want to touch on this is simply because nobody else is really talking about it, even though it's in an article. Woman says dad died a hero throwing bricks at Bondi Beach attacker, and Australia's not a home for Jews anymore. The daughter of one of the victims of Sunday's Bondi Beach terror attack told CBS on Monday that her father was shot dead for being Jewish, and she now believes Australia is not safe. Sheena Gutnick said her father, Reuven Morrison, a 62-year-old Soviet-born member of the ultra-Orthodox Jewish community in Australia, was killed while attempting to stop one of the two gunmen during Sunday's mass shooting, which authorities have called an anti-Semitic terrorist attack. From my sources and understanding, he had jumped up the second the shooting started. He managed to throw bricks at the terrorists. And that's what caught my attention. That, ladies and gentlemen, is worse than bringing a knife to a gunfight. You bring bricks. I mean, you better have one hell of a good ability to duck and weave if you're going to throw bricks at somebody with a rifle.
It was a bolt action
Or
rifle
a
to give it
hand-
to him, though.
Or a handgun even. I don't care what kind of gun it is. It just, bricks, I'll take the gun anytime.
Yeah, but it said he was on a higher level. No, he was throwing bricks down.
But see, the point I'm getting to
Mhm.
is Australia has such strict laws
Mhm.
that citizens don't conceal carry there.
No,
No, they don't,
Mhm.
which leaves people at risk. The best thing that can happen is a good guy with a gun, and their good guys suck with guns too, which are their cops. They're like, they weren't doing shit for so long when they got there that they didn't know what to do. No, the best way to answer somebody like this, and maybe he would have been able to stay alive, that if instead of him having this bright idea of throwing bricks, if he'd actually had a handgun that he could have pulled out and taken some real shots and made them duck. They're not really moving out of the way with bricks.
I mean, from what I could be wrong, but for what I remember, like Australia is like one of the top.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Non-gun. Like,
It is.
like they almost never have like gun issues there.
Well, I think that's under played about them having gun issues. What is true is that it can still happen there.
Yeah, I mean it can happen anywhere.
It can happen anywhere.
but they're like
They're
one of
not
the top-
immune to it,
Yeah.
and that they have some of the strictest gun laws in the world.
Mhm.
And again, the only way to if my only option is a brick, I would prefer to protect someone next to me by, covering them, doing something. If I get killed that way, protecting them, I'm okay with that.
Mhm.
But I'm just going to jump out there with bricks, and that's just. I'm sorry.
I mean, at that point, that's a personal choice. Like whether or
Yeah,
not.
it is. I
like,
just
you'd
think it's
rather
a
run
dumb
at that
choice.
point. Yeah.
It's just a dumb choice.
For sure.
Yeah, I'm not trying to trash the guy, but Jesus, that's not bright.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I get what you're saying for sure. But I think Australia has done a pretty good job of if like they have like some of the lowest rates of like even just
Dude, because they have almost a total ban on guns.
yeah, exactly. So
That will never happen here,
no,
ever.
definitely not.
There's just too many guns.
Yeah.
Even if you ban the sale of all future guns.
Yeah, there's already too many guns in the U.S. to quote unquote ban them.
There's too many to ban them.
Yeah,
You never have enough guns.
you'd get into way too many more problems than
Yeah. Yeah, that's not, and like I said, these other countries, they don't have constitutions. They don't have that. They don't have the right to bear arms. It was never in their laws. So getting rid of them, much easier there to do that. But still, it still doesn't end the problem. And it's funny, I see there where you're pulling up the firearm suicides is one of the categories there.
it is, yes.
I would love to see a chart next to it that showed suicides by other than the use of a gun.
Well, if you think about it, right, like the psychological thing behind suicide, like a gun is nice and quick, right? If you're hanging yourself, you really gotta want to go through that, So I think that number actually would be quite dramatic.
Well,
if you do take away guns. Let's find out.
Well, I'm just using Japan as my example. I believe in Japan, they have a pretty high rate of suicide.
Correct.
And it's not by gun.
No. But that is the society in Japan is much, much different than it is in Australia. Or
But
anywhere
I just
in the world in
right.
general.
But I just want to point out that getting rid of the guns does not mean you're going to get rid of suicides.
No, but I think it definitely does like take a good portion of suicide out of the way.
It maybe it does in Australia, but it certainly doesn't elsewhere.
Not for sure, but like even in Japan, I'm pretty sure the gun laws in Japan are actually pretty strict. I really don't know in Japan, but
And that's my point. But the suicides are still as high as anywhere.
yeah, but they also have like twice as many people than
Twice as many? Japan?
like the big cities. Yeah.
I don't know what the differences is, but you can do it per capita to figure it out. So
Yeah,
it's more on a fair basis.
I don't know. It just suicide has so many different factors that play
No,
into the actual endpoints.
Sure it
That
does.
it's an interesting to think about, though.
Yeah. Let's see. The total number of deaths by suicide in Australia has generally increased since the mid-2000s, reaching over 3,000 Australians by 2015, driven partly by population growth and other factors. This overall increase occurred even after the rate and number of suicides specifically involving firearms dropped. So that's still kind of what my point was. Suicides actually even increased, even though but less of them were done by guns. Less suicides didn't happen, just less by guns. People found other ways.
That's actually really interesting to think
Yeah,
about.
that's what yeah.
I would have thought that
I know.
taking away
I
that
would
gun.
first, that's why I loved your reaction, because it's an honest first reaction,
Mhm.
But again, sometimes that's what happens. We think things should happen a certain way, or we think things we have a certain intent for things, but then it doesn't go that way. Then you have to look at it like, okay, You have to look at it. I thought this, and that was not a bad conclusion for you to come to,
Mm-hmm.
but we see the real world result now. Well, okay, maybe we have to try something else, something differently, because this isn't working. So, in Japan, the pressures on those kids are so much higher than anywhere else. But still, the lack of having guns readily available does not stop suicide. It just does not. And so I just wanted to point out that, man, if bricks are your only option, try to get away. Protect yourself, protect your family, whoever else you have around it. Don't try to be a hero with bricks. That's not a great choice. And I'm not slamming on the dude or anything, but bricks, it's not a good choice. All right. So a lot going on this weekend also in the Republican movement, in MAGA, and certainly TPS USA has a lot to do with MAGA. If it wasn't for Charlie Kirk, President Trump would not have gotten reelected in 2024. That group was the biggest difference. Now, certainly other things made a difference. The president himself, him getting shot at, Elon Musk, having people from, having people from the Democratic side, like an RFK and Gulby Tabard, having them, come over and join in the administration and things like that. Yeah, those were all important, but nothing was more important than Charlie Kirk. He was the number one reason for the president getting reelected, because he was the one, TPUSA was the one that went and got people registered and got them excited about going to the polls, and a whole lot of them going to the polls for the very first time. And usually when you're younger, you have more of a tendency to be more liberal and more likely a Democrat. And, this is something that's been true for a long time. And usually as you get older, that you're more likely to be a Republican after you pay some taxes. But, there's always the exception to that, obviously. I'm an exception to that. I was never a Democrat in my life at any point. And I'm probably, I don't know if I remember. I'd have to ask my dad. I'm sure my dad probably voted for Clinton at least once, For me, never. I've never voted for a Democratic candidate for president. There was a time when I was going to choose not to vote at all that I've talked about, and that was when McCain was the Republican nominee. And I, even to this day, wish I had stuck by what I really wanted to do, which was nothing at all, not vote for either one. Because I'm not about, and you're having people that are going to put pressure now on us over this next year. I'm not about party first. I'm about America first. And I absolutely despise these neocon Republicans, these never Trumpers that are still around that we took the party away from. They're hoping to get it back, and we can't give it to them. But again, my first and foremost is to this country, that I believe in this country, that I believe that, we make mistakes, that we're not perfect, but we do our best to find the right answer eventually. When we exhaust all other answers, we eventually get to the right one. And we care about that. And that can only be a good thing. Now, maybe it feels like a lot that we care less lately nowadays, but I think that's still inside of us there. And so again, my position is what my is America first. It's not Republican Party first. I would rather see, I think there's a better chance of getting the things that we want done if the Republicans win in the midterms and keep control. I think it'll be a bad thing for the country if Democrats get control. But what I won't do is I won't get bullied into it, which is what some seem to want to do right now. And even though I watch PBD and have great respect for them, I can't stand Adam, but I do like PBD, and he cares about the country too. But he's more party first, and that's important to him. And I don't fault him for that. I totally get that. I'm just telling you what I personally am, which is that's not the case. And if it so happens that the Republicans don't, well, they did it to themselves. And that could be the case. I don't understand why the president didn't stand by Elise Stefanik, who was somebody who was going to come into the administration. He was going to make her an ambassador, an important ambassador. She was one of his staunchest allies. He had her withdraw from being an ambassador because the numbers were so slim in the House that we needed her there. That I understood. And now, wouldn't it be great? The president did much better than expected, right? In New York. And she announced like a month ago that she was going to run for governor of New York and take on Hochuli. And now, because the president is, he said he didn't endorse either one, but the president didn't give her his endorsement. So she's withdrawing, and she's not going to be in Congress and not going to run for governor. And I just don't understand what the purpose is. And then the president announced, I don't even know who the guy is. I saw the name, but it's not somebody I know. But I know what Elise Stefanik is. I know who she is. I know what she's done. I know about her support for Trump. And I know how much he values loyalty, because I do too. But apparently that's not enough. That, that she's going to be gone. And she didn't ever come after him, like some others have in the Republican Party, like Marjorie Taylor Greene. I don't know what happened with her and why she went off course. And I'm sorry to see that. But I, too, am feeling it. I have been pro-Israel all my life. Now, maybe there was a time in my life when I was young and I had no idea. That's true. But once I did have an idea, once I did read and understand some history, I fully believed in and supported Israel's right to exist and believed in the state of Israel and protecting it from all of its enemies which surrounded it, right? But this latest stuff where anybody who says anything negative or anybody who doesn't pump up, pro-Jewish talking points, anybody who doesn't take their side and everything, take AIPAC money, somehow on a hit list, or they're bad people. I personally don't believe, like some believe in the Republican Party, like a Candace Owens. I love Candace Owens, but I don't believe that Israel was committing genocide. I believe they had every right to go in after October 7th and wage war the way they have. And it's not a conventional war. These terrorists hid behind civilians. These terrorists hid in hospitals and schools. They're the ones that got their citizens killed because they don't care about them. And some of these citizens are responsible for putting them in power in the first place. And that attack was a horrible attack on them, and I supported their right to defend themselves however they best saw it fit. But that doesn't mean we need to be involved in it. We can support them by words. We can support them even in weapons. But look, I'm one too that even our allies, I'm concerned about the money we give to our allies. Because why? Most of our allies are really well-developed nations. Why are we giving them money? Why isn't that money being used here at home for Americans? Remember, America first? Why isn't that being used for Americans here? And anybody raising any questions at all gets labeled anti-Semitic, and I don't think they are at all. I don't think Candace is anti-Semitic. I don't believe Tucker Carlson is anti-Semitic. I know I'm the fuck not anti-Semitic. But this whole idea where you can't say certain things, and people are pushing back against this, and they should. It's not right. Speech you don't like is speech that should be protected. You should be able to put out, and anybody can now, anybody can turn a camera around and get their opinion out there. You don't have to have a Leo. You don't have to. You don't have to have expensive microphones, cameras. You don't have to. You could turn your fucking phone around and give your opinion. And I support your right to do that, no matter how much I dislike your take or your beliefs or your belief system. I still support your right to do that. And if you want to say hateful shit, I support your right to say hateful shit, because I think that I'm smart enough to listen to you when you're saying hateful shit to know that you're saying hateful shit. And I'm going to judge based on that. I'm going to make a judgment about you. People are going to judge me, and you should. I don't expect everybody to agree with me. Don't expect everyone to agree with you. And I want to persuade those that I can, but I know some people aren't persuadable at all. But I'm always looking, what information can I provide to give somebody for them to put in their little computer that they might spit out a different answer? Because whatever answers you're spitting out is dependent on what you've taken in. What information did you take in, and what of that information did you believe to be true? And in many cases, we know it's not true, right? I forget how many times this weekend, even somebody, I've had Doc Treese from back in Toledo on the program. We did an interview with him. It was a great interview. But he posted something this past weekend about something that had happened, and it hadn't happened yet. There's the possibility that could happen, and it all had to do with Mark Kelly, Senator Mark Kelly from here in Arizona. That because he's a former military, that they were going to recall him, and they were going to then court-martial him for that video that he made that was very controversial. And I don't think, I think that was wrong for them in what they did. There are rules and laws about that kind of stuff. Now, it's under investigation. You can hope that it happens. But what he instead did is he copy and pasted somebody else's shit that was wrong. Instead of, he could have formed his own opinion and said, this is what's going on right now. He hasn't formally been, asked, to come back in to the military or forced to do that. But I hope that he is. That would be fair and accurate. What's not fair and accurate is to act like it's already happening. It hasn't, or that it's already happened, not happening, that it's already happened. And it hasn't. There is no credible news. And it took me a couple minutes to find that out. And here's a smart guy that I like. Why didn't you take that time to find out before you posted that? I just don't share other people's shit that often. And if I share somebody else's shit, and look, I do appreciate when y'all share my shit, okay? I'm not going to lie. But I don't really share other people's shit very much, at least on Facebook, very much, because I want to give my version of it. I don't want to, I hate those long-ass copy and paste. And I'm talking long, that like, dude, who do you think is reading this? This is so fucking long. Just tell us what you think. Because there's no way that you likely believe in whatever you're reposting. Very likely that it's word for word that you believe that. So why not just post your opinion? That's what I want to see. That's the content that I want. Not just something that everybody is sending around. That's just ridiculous. So, bunch of fake shit out there. A lot. And it makes really smart people look dumb sometimes when they don't take that moment and do that. And, some people just, they're a lost cause anyways. There's dumb people on both sides. Let me promise you that. That's the same as people who repost Occupy Democrats. Like Occupy Democrats is actually a news source. It's not. I don't know if they've ever had an accurate post yet. They're stupid fucking memes. So, big mess with going back to Amfest now. This was a big event. This is the first time this event was held since Charlie has passed, since Charlie was assassinated. More accurate. And somebody who has never been a part of this somehow got to be the opening act, almost. And that was Ben Shapiro. And Ben Shapiro came out and started firing at Tucker Carlson, Candace Owen, and even Megyn Kelly, who he's been friends with. At one time, he was colleagues with Candace Owen. And I don't know when him and Tucker's relationship went south. But again, it's all centered around Israel.
I'm sorry. What is Amfest? Just like a quick summary, like
yeah, it's just bringing together conservative speakers.
and
like
everyone's just gonna go around like just saying their piece or whatever, or like they just take turns just saying.
They take turns just
okay.
talking about things in the movement, from their perspective. J.D. Vance even came and talked. So I mean, if you look at their list is a pretty good who's who of conservatives, but there were some people missing. Candace Owens was missing. And like I said, Ben, up to this point, hadn't been had been a part of it. So it's just, there's a couple of them that they have a year, a couple different things. There's another one in Florida.
New.
Well, there's one in Florida that they have every year too. The name escapes me. It's a really super popular one in Ben. But, it's a way to see the people you get a chance to see, the conservative voices you like, It's almost a little bit like a rally, and they're going to raise money, obviously,
For the Republican Party, or
for TPUSA. Money certainly can be raised for the Republican Party or potentially candidates or people who speak. But, the major thing is what TPUSA was doing was using that money to go out and get people registered to vote and to get people to talk, to debate. That's what Charlie was all about. And what Ben was all about. It's weird seeing an event that really was about discussion, because that's what Charlie was about. He was about discussing things.
oh, this is Charlie Kirk's theme. Oh, okay,
This was his thing.
Gotcha.
And now it's just continuing on. And Erica's the CEO now, so it's continuing on.
Gotcha.
And all of a sudden, there's been this big turn that it's almost like you have to show this allegiance to Israel. My allegiance, first and foremost, is to one country. That is the United States of America. Now, some people don't consider Israel an ally. Some conservatives don't. Some conservatives do. I do consider them an ally. Are they an ally that spies on us? Yes, they do. Guess what? We spy on those fuckers too. We all spy on each other, friend and foe. It's what we do. But my allegiance is to this country. I'm an American. And I'm an American more than anything else. I'm 50% Italian. But you know what? I'm 100%? I'm 100% motherfucking American. That's what I am. So, yeah, this allegiance that, like, I support Israel, but I'm not going to show some allegiance to Israel that's going to supersede my allegiance to the United States of America. If we have a situation where, what we think is aligned and our goals are aligned, great. Or objectives. But if the objective for America and Israel, at times may not, that they may oppose each other in just maybe a specific area, my allegiance is to the United States first. That's all. That doesn't make me anti-Semitic. It doesn't make any of these people anti-Semitic. Now, people want to fire at Nick Fuentes. That's different because he does say anti-Semitic things. These other people are being put in that same category, and they're not doing that. And you have people attacking Candace for asking questions about the murder of someone that she cared about. And I think it would be very hard. I know there was an example given this morning on PBD that, I think it was Adam that was saying it. Oh, Patrick, if you, if something tragic happened to you, I wouldn't ever think that it could be somebody here or your wife or a spouse. Really? I think that's a dumb comment. Do you know why?
Not a very smart person.
Right.
I'm pretty sure 99% of the time it's always someone closer to you than not.
Most of the time it's not random, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you at least have to consider that what's one of the first things they do in these investigations, or is that just on TV? What's the first thing they do? They have to rule out the people that are close to them, or they rule them in. But they got to ask. Yeah, they got to ask the spouse. The cops don't say, "Why we can't ask the spouse where she was." She's the first fucking one you're going to ask. But nobody trashes on these cops. But if a private citizen questions, and for the most point, Candace in no way implied that Erica was involved in the shooting or had something to do with the shooting.
She did or didn't?
Didn't.
Okay.
But people are saying that she said that, and she didn't say it. She's talked about other things related to it, and just like we've brought up, you know,
She didn't hint at it.
not in the way that people are saying.
Gotcha.
And I've actually, people are repeating that
Mm-hmm.
because they're just repeating what other people said.
Yeah.
They're not actually listening to the show themselves. And the reason I know that is because I've listened to the whole fucking show. And I've listened to most of the whole shows just for that reason. And, you know, it's not just isn't everything a conspiracy theory until it's not? And how else are you going to know unless you look into it? I don't know. How else do you know until you actually look into it?
You have to.
You have to.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of the whole point.
That's the whole point of an investigation.
Yeah.
And what? We should just wait for the government investigation? We should wait for the state of Utah and their prosecutors and their investigators? Or we should wait for the FBI? Really?
Got to get in line.
I'm sorry, I'm not waiting for them because I'm not saying they won't give us any information, but I don't trust them. I just don't. They haven't, I'm willing to give my trust to someone until they, prove that they don't deserve it, that you don't always have to earn it, that I'll give that to you. Well, I did that. I trusted the government. And I don't trust the government anymore because they prove they can't be trusted. That's it. They prove they can't be trusted. So why would I wait for them? Oh, you can't ask questions. That might hurt the investigation. They're the same motherfucking questions that the investigators, if they're doing their job, they should be asking. That's all. That's how I feel about it. And the all of these people are people out of the mainstream of media. Mainstream media is not mainstream media anymore. And it's lost its power and effectiveness. The new mainstream is podcasts. Wherever they are. The influencers. But I don't look at them just like influencers. Many of these people like Tucker and so he's just doing some of the same things he did before on TV, but just doing them himself. And you could choose to listen or not listen. Just as you could before. You can turn the channel. But I'm not ready to attack them. And I think what Ben is doing, somebody that I thought was a brilliant mind and somebody who I had a respect for, I don't have any type of personal relationship with him. I'm not in that crowd. Maybe someday, I don't know. But I did respect him. And that respect has gotten badly damaged now by his attacks on other people that I don't, again, telling somebody that they shouldn't have somebody on their show or doing this or that, because you know what I would do? I can tell you this, and Leo knows this. I would never let somebody else tell me who I could or could not interview. I'm going to interview or talk to whoever I want. And I did that on the radio. And that's how I also got pushed out of the radio. Part of it, they used what was going on with me personally to do it. But the the higher ups at the radio station did not like it that I had a relationship with the Democratic mayor. And it was strictly a business relationship, basically, and business as of a political side. I didn't support him, but I talked to him and he would talk to me. And I was the only media he would talk to. He wouldn't do interviews with anybody else. And because I was just fair with him, that's all. I gave him a chance to say what he wanted to say. And it's not like I didn't challenge him. I challenged him all the time. I just wasn't a dick to him when he was on the phone with us. That's all. And they didn't like that. Troy, we kind of feel like, you're not a team player. And I said, you're right. I didn't know I was on your team. This is my show. I get this time from you. You don't pay me. You don't give me a salary. And quite honestly, if you did, it would be fun money. That's when I was a financial advisor making $700,000, $800,000 a year. What do you think, $60,000 or some little bullshit, talking on the radio in the morning was good. That kind of money was going to do something for me. No. I did it a different way. And I would always do that. And I respect the other people in this business that are way bigger than I am, because we're nobody yet. We're still working on it. But that does the same. That does what they want to do and puts their stuff out there as authentically as they can. That they're not bought, paid for, or influenced by any group or advertisers or anybody else. That's it. It's that easy. So I'm going to stand behind the people that I'm going to stand behind. And I'm going to support this country. I'm going to be America first. And those people that align with America first and those politicians that align with America first, I'm going to support. And if there's an occasional Democrat who is America first, I can support them too. But it'll be based on real facts in their record. That's what it'll be. Not just what they have after their name, or just because somebody says, well, you have to. No, I don't have to. And I will never be forced or be pressured like I was before in voting for Senator John McCain. And I vowed that that would never happen again. And it won't. So, one of the most reasonable people out there is Megyn Kelly. And for Ben to turn on her like he did, when she has not done anything but, try to bring this group back together for the good of everyone. If it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But that'll be on Ben for that. So that's how I feel about Ben Shapiro right now. Not very good. That's what we have for today, folks. We did have one last thing with Nicki Minaj. I don't know where this came from, but Nicki Minaj is now, she didn't like other people telling her what she had to do. Being a black woman, a black entertainer, and is pushing back against that, and not somebody you would normally have expected to become part of, maybe the TPUSA family, becoming a conservative. I don't know how long she's been a conservative, but this all seems new to everyone, and it's new, or at least her speaking out about it is new, but good for her. Good for her in doing that, because especially in entertainment, it's been very hard for people to be conservatives in entertainment, whether that be music or movies or whatever. The easy road is to just be a Democrat and go along. That's the easy road. She took the harder road. So that was kind of very interesting. But that's pretty much what we got for you today. We will be here on Wednesday. All right. So we need you to be here too. Share the show. Take some of these great clips that Leo's been dropping, both on TikTok and YouTube.
And Instagram.
And Instagram. They're all over now. Share them. Share them, like them. Let's get that pushing, because that's what's going to bring people to this content here, because that's where that content comes from. It comes from right here. And you're all a part of that, and we appreciate you. Love you very much. This is the Outlaw Apostle Podcast. I'm your host, Troy Neff. I'm the fucking guy.
Whoa. Who knew I would make it this far? They hated, they never believed me. Yeah, I would never drop the ball. I know I make it look easy. Yeah, Mayweather with the defense. I don't care what a critic got to say. I got them picking up the pieces. That to me, you really playing with your life.